Okay, this isn't anything required for the class. It's just sort of to get you to think outside the box a little bit. Nowadays, people think you have to do everything in After Effects if you want to do interesting graphics, and this is all done in Premiere. This is because I learned editing back in the day before After Effects, so I had to learn how to be creative within the editing programs. So this is just through using different keying. This is, I think, this is a color key. It's also you could do it with an alpha channel by reversing it. I posted a few YouTube videos about keying also. Again, this is just because in this class we didn't get into any projects that required keying. So this is a little logo I did for my company, Phase Films, and I'll post this video also. Yeah, it doesn't play well when I'm recording the screen. But so essentially you've got some type with moving video behind it. It's an effect that I really enjoy. I've been doing it for years. One of my little go-to gags. And so I'm going to basically show you how to do that if you're interested. If you're not, then you're not. This is just sort of for fun. So let's start a new sequence here. And here I have my Phase Films. I built this in Photoshop. I think just because that way it gave me a flat JPEG as opposed to building it in the Legacy Title tool, because I wanted to manipulate it my own way. So, and then below that is I'm just going to do TV static behind the letters. So here's the TV static. I got this from a website. You can join websites with backgrounds and effects and things like that. I think I joined a website and just downloaded a bunch of backgrounds and interesting textures, so I have something, stuff in my arsenal if I ever need it. So here's my TV static. I'm going to drag and drop it onto the timeline, and then go back to my type, which I built, just a white on black JPEG. Drag that onto the timeline. So now I just have my type. Now that's, as you can see, my type is on top of the TV static. So that's upstream, and then the TV static is downstream, we call it. How you put the layers is important too when you start building effects. So sometimes there might be some trial and error. So to start, as you can see, my JPEG's a little small, so I'm just going to resize it so it fills the screen. Now typically, just to show you, a Luma key is like the default. Like if you build a title in Title Tool, if you go down to keying down here in the effects, you open up keying, and there's even more different types of keying. So this is a Luma key. Wait, make sure that my effect is there. I'm going to add a Luma key. And a Luma key is, here you go. See, that's your default keying for titles. The Legacy Title tool automatically does that. But we're going to reverse that. So we're not going to use Luma key. I'm going to just delete that. I'm going to use a color key. Also in the keying drop-down menu is color key. Did I add it? Okay, there it goes. I added it into my title. And I'm going to use the eyedropper. I'm going to grab the white. Now you can see it has keyed it in reverse, so that's the moving static behind phase. Now for some reason there's a little bit of an anomaly where that white is a little off than the other white, so we have some adjustments here. So first, in the color key you have tolerance. So I'm going to decrease the tolerance. Where'd it go? I'm going to decrease the tolerance so it'll grab the other word. So there we go. I just barely touched it, and now it's keying on both letters. For some reason, when I built that title in Photoshop, there was like a slight difference between the whites, and that's why it didn't key it. It's that sensitive. And then, as you can see, there's some edges here, some white edges for the key. It's a little sloppy. So the initial default key is not quite clean. So I'm going to edge thin right here. So you have some, whenever you're keying, you have some adjustments you can make to make the key a little better. So I'm just going to move that a little bit, and that'll clean up that white edge a little bit so it's a little nicer. You also have edge feather, where you can, if I increase the edge feather, look, it made the little white thicker. I don't want to do that. So now that's a nice, fun key. And again, the other one I showed you is a little more involved. I've got, see, I bounce it around, and I really just do that by adding black, doing some cropping. It just takes some time to do it. Just kind of build that sequence. As you can see, there's lots of little edits going on in there. I think I added some black, and I used the black to cover the word sometimes and had it spot in and spot out, jump in and jump out, grab different letters. But that's the basics, is just starting with the key, and then I just built it up from there. And then the noise, just a side note, when you have the noise clicking on, accompanying the edits, we call that sound sweetening, is adding little sound hits and so forth. So I added that little static and so forth when the letters are popping on and off. Yeah, so when the like, again, I'll show when you can watch the sequence by itself. The little statics and so forth and hits and pops are kind of fun to go with and it accentuates the movement, it accentuates the fun sort of editing of the graphic sequence. So that's all done in Premiere. This is it's a basic title tool and editing. This is not an After Effects thing. So there, just a fun little trick.